If your knees ache when you climb stairs, if your fingers feel stiff in the morning for no clear reason, or if you experience sharp, grinding pain that doctors keep calling normal aging, stay with me for the next few minutes. What I'm about to share may explain why your joints are deteriorating, and more importantly, how to stop the damage before it becomes irreversible. This is not about managing pain with pills. This is about protecting your cartilage while you still have some left. Let me make you a clear promise right now. By the end of this message, you will understand the single worst poison attacking seniors' joints today, a poison most people consume every single day without suspecting it. And you'll know exactly what puts you at risk and what needs to change. Not eventually, not when it's convenient, now. I'm Dr. Catherine Wells, and I've spent decades treating seniors with joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and something many are told they must simply accept, degenerative arthritis. And one of the most frustrating things I witness is how often people are told the wrong story about why their joints are failing. They're told it's aging. They're told it's genetics. They're told it's wear and tear. In many cases, none of that is the full truth. So now I want to ask you one direct question, and this is your call to action. Have you experienced joint pain, morning stiffness, or swelling that seems to get worse over time? And did you know that chronic inflammation could be destroying your cartilage even if your blood work looks normal? Write your answer in the comments because awareness is your first defense, and once cartilage damage crosses a certain threshold, we don't get it back. Let me tell you about a patient named Eleanor. Eleanor was 71 years old, still independent, still active, but her knees hurt constantly. Her hands were so stiff in the morning she couldn't open jars. Sometimes she felt sharp, grinding pain in her hips that made her pause halfway up the stairs. She was told it was arthritis, probably just aging. Maybe she needed to lose weight. But when we looked deeper, we found something else. A daily exposure, something she believed was keeping her healthy, was slowly poisoning her joints. When we removed it, the damage didn't reverse overnight, but it stopped accelerating, and that changed her entire trajectory. Here's the open loop I want you to hold on to. What was that poison? And how many seniors are unknowingly feeding it to themselves every single day? To answer that, you need to understand something fundamental about joints. Joints are not mechanical hinges. They are living systems that depend on stable chemistry, low inflammation, and continuous nutrient supply to function. Unlike bone, cartilage heals extremely slowly. That means damage accumulates quietly over time. Long before you feel grinding pain, stiffness, or swelling, your joints may already be under attack. Now here's where things get uncomfortable. The worst poison devouring seniors' joints is not something obvious like industrial chemicals or extreme sports injuries. It's not even obesity by itself, though that contributes. The worst poison is something far more common, something many seniors are actually encouraged to eat regularly, often as part of a healthy diet. The worst poison destroying your joints is chronic inflammatory foods, specifically refined seed oils and excess omega-6 fatty acids. And this is critical to understand. You do not need to have rheumatoid arthritis for inflammation to destroy your cartilage. You only need repeated inflammatory triggers. And millions of seniors are exposed to those triggers multiple times per day without realizing it. When inflammatory molecules flood your system repeatedly, they attack the delicate cartilage inside your joints. This creates oxidative stress, enzyme activation that breaks down tissue, and damage to the synovial fluid that cushions joints. Over time, joints lose their ability to glide smoothly. That's when stiffness starts, then grinding, then pain, then swelling, then loss of mobility. One of the biggest myths in senior health is that arthritis suddenly appears. It doesn't. It develops silently, often for years, while the poison keeps working in the background. Let me ask you something important. Have you ever been told you have a little arthritis showing up on X-rays, or told your joints are just wearing out naturally? That's often where the misunderstanding begins. In fact, research now shows that inflammation drives joint destruction far more than mechanical wear alone. The difference is that most people don't connect their diet to their joint pain. Now I want to pause here because this is where many people say, "But I eat clean," and I believe you. Most of my patients believe that too. That's the problem. The poison is not obvious. It hides inside foods and cooking methods that sound healthy on the surface. Let me walk you through how this poison works, step by step. You eat something cooked in or containing refined seed oils, corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. Your body processes these oils and creates inflammatory compounds called prostaglandins and leukotrienes. These compounds circulate through your bloodstream and settle into joint tissues. Over time, chronic inflammation triggers enzymes that literally eat away at cartilage. The protective cushioning inside your joints slowly degrades. And because this happens gradually, people don't connect the dots. They say things like it just started hurting one day, when in reality it's been building for years. Here's another open loop. If inflammatory oils are so damaging, why don't all seniors who consume them get severe arthritis? The answer is exposure frequency, genetic resilience, and how much anti-inflammatory protection you have. Some joints tolerate abuse longer than others. But once damage crosses a certain threshold, symptoms appear, and they often accelerate quickly. Now let's talk about where this poison comes from in daily life. The first major source is restaurant food and processed meals. Almost everything fried, sautéed, or prepared commercially uses cheap refined oils. These oils are chemically unstable and become more inflammatory when heated. Seniors often eat out for convenience or buy pre-made meals, unknowingly consuming inflammatory oils with every bite. The second major source is so-called heart-healthy products. Margarine, vegetable spreads, salad dressings, mayonnaise. Many foods marketed as better for you are loaded with omega-6 oils. Seniors were told for decades that these were healthier than butter. In reality, they've been slowly inflaming joints throughout the population. The third source is constant exposure without recovery time. When inflammatory compounds stay elevated all day, joints never get a break. There's no healing window. This is why eating inflammatory foods multiple times per day is especially harmful for joint health. Joints need stable, low-inflammation conditions to maintain cartilage. Constant inflammatory triggers keep them breaking down. Now here's a piece most people never hear. Some medications can quietly worsen joint damage by depleting nutrients essential for cartilage repair, especially vitamin D and magnesium. Certain diuretics, acid blockers, and even some pain medications can interfere with nutrient absorption over time. Without adequate vitamin D, your body cannot properly regulate inflammation or maintain joint integrity. Let me tell you about Robert. He had painful, swollen knees for years. Doctors blamed arthritis and old age. When we tested his nutrient levels, he was severely deficient in vitamin D. The cause wasn't lack of sun exposure, it was a medication he'd taken faithfully for years. Once corrected, his joint inflammation decreased noticeably. Not eliminated, but reduced. And that made all the difference in his daily function. Arthritis is rarely caused by one thing alone. It's usually a combination of inflammatory diet, oxidative stress, nutrient depletion, and poor cartilage support. But chronic inflammation is the accelerant. It's the gasoline on the fire. This matters because joints have a tipping point. Early damage may cause occasional stiffness or mild aching. Later damage causes constant pain, grinding sensations, swelling, and loss of independence. Once cartilage is destroyed, it is extremely difficult to regenerate. That's why stopping the poison early is so critical. Here's the part I want you to hear clearly. Severe arthritis is not always reversible. But in many cases, it is preventable from progressing further, and that alone can preserve your mobility and quality of life. Which brings us to the most important question, and this is where part 2 begins. If chronic inflammation from refined oils is the poison, what neutralizes it? What protects joints? And what simple changes can seniors make to stop joint damage from accelerating? In the next part, I'll show you how to identify hidden inflammatory oils in your diet, the single eating rule that protects cartilage, the nutrients joints desperately need after 60, and how to tell whether your joint damage may still be in a stage where protection makes a real difference. Now let's talk about the part that actually gives you control. If chronic inflammation from refined oils is the poison quietly destroying your joints, what neutralizes it? What protects cartilage? And what can you realistically do? Not as a medical expert, not as an athlete, but as a senior who wants less pain, better mobility, and a future with more independence. This is where many people expect complicated answers. They expect restrictive diets, expensive treatments, or pharmaceutical solutions. The truth is far simpler, and that's why it's so often missed. The first and most important step in protecting your joints is eliminating inflammatory oils. Not reducing them gradually, not moderating intake, eliminating them. Joints don't need moderation when it comes to the substances actively breaking them down. They need those triggers removed. Every exposure to refined seed oils is like pouring acid on damaged cartilage. Fewer exposures mean less destruction. That alone can slow or even stop progression. Here is the single most important rule I teach seniors with joint pain, and it's one most people have never heard. Cook only with stable fats. Not vegetable oil, not canola oil, not corn oil. Use olive oil, avocado oil, butter, or coconut oil. These fats do not convert into inflammatory compounds the way refined seed oils do. Cartilage can tolerate them. It cannot tolerate constant omega-6 bombardment. This rule alone explains why some seniors develop crippling arthritis while others don't, even with similar activity levels. It's not always how much you move. It's what you're feeding your inflammatory pathways. Let me give you a real example. A woman, Patricia, 69 years old, came to see me because her hands hurt so badly she couldn't knit anymore. She had swelling in multiple finger joints and constant stiffness in the morning. She believed she was eating healthy. Every day she used margarine on her toast, cooked with vegetable oil, and ate salad dressing made with soybean oil. What she didn't realize was that every meal was triggering inflammation throughout her joints. We removed all refined oils from her kitchen, replaced them with olive oil and butter, and switched to homemade dressings. Within 6 weeks, her morning stiffness decreased significantly. Her swelling reduced. She started knitting again. Nothing magical happened. We simply stopped poisoning her joints. The second major step is replacing inflammatory oils with anti-inflammatory fats. Omega-3 fatty acids from fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel actively reduce joint inflammation. They compete with omega-6 oils and help calm inflammatory pathways. Seniors who eat fatty fish 2 to 3 times per week consistently report less joint pain and better mobility. This isn't a theory. It's measurable in inflammatory markers and observable in symptom reduction. If you can't eat fish regularly, high-quality fish oil supplements can help, but whole food is always preferable. The third step is nutrient protection, and this is critical. Joints require specific nutrients to maintain cartilage and control inflammation. Chief among them is vitamin D. Vitamin D regulates immune response and inflammatory pathways throughout the body. Without enough vitamin D, inflammation runs wild, and cartilage breaks down faster. Many seniors are deficient in vitamin D without knowing it, especially those who spend most of their time indoors or live in northern climates. But vitamin D is not the only nutrient joints depend on. Vitamin C is essential for collagen production, the structural protein in cartilage. Magnesium helps regulate calcium balance and reduces muscle tension around joints. Glucosamine and chondroitin, while debated, show benefit for some people in protecting existing cartilage. These nutrients don't rebuild destroyed cartilage, but they help stabilize and protect what remains. Now here's an important caution. More is not always better. Some supplements, especially when taken in megadoses without testing, can cause imbalances or side effects. This is why informed use matters. Guessing can be wasteful or even harmful. The fourth step is reducing systemic inflammation beyond diet. Sugar spikes inflame everything, including joints. Highly processed foods contain additives that trigger immune responses. Excess body weight puts mechanical stress on joints while also increasing inflammatory molecules in your bloodstream. On the other hand, whole foods, especially colorful vegetables, berries, and herbs, like turmeric and ginger, help calm inflammatory pathways throughout your body. Less inflammation means quieter joints. The fifth step is appropriate movement, but not the kind most people fear. You do not need intense exercise to protect joints. In fact, high-impact activities can worsen symptoms. What joints need is gentle, regular motion. Movement pumps nutrients into cartilage and removes waste products. It keeps joints lubricated and prevents stiffness from setting in. Gentle walking, swimming, tai chi, or simple range of motion exercises can make a profound difference. Even 5 to 10 minutes of movement daily matters. Movement is medicine when done correctly and without aggravating inflammation. At this point, I want to address something important. Many seniors feel discouraged when they hear cartilage damage is slow to heal. That's true. Cartilage has limited blood supply and regenerates very slowly, if at all. But stopping progression is just as powerful as reversing damage. Less pain, better sleep, improved mobility, fewer limitations. Those changes matter profoundly. One of the most harmful beliefs seniors are given is that nothing can be done, that arthritis is just inevitable. That belief itself becomes dangerous. I've seen people give up and accept severe disability early, only to worsen rapidly because the inflammatory triggers were never removed. Let me share another story. A man in his mid-70s came to me using a walker. He felt unsteady and feared falling because his knees were so painful and unstable. He had been told his arthritis was advanced and irreversible. When we eliminated inflammatory oils from his diet, optimized his vitamin D levels, and added gentle movement, his pain reduced enough that he transitioned to a cane, then to walking unassisted for short distances. He didn't become pain-free, but he regained function. That's life-changing. This brings us to a crucial point. Arthritis is not just about pain. It's about independence. It's about being able to walk to the mailbox, to climb stairs, to pick up your grandchildren, to live without fear of immobility. Once arthritis progresses too far, the risk of falls rises sharply. Falls are one of the greatest threats to senior health and longevity. That's why timing matters. Early joint damage responds better than advanced damage. Morning stiffness and occasional aching are warning signs, not life sentences. They are signals telling you something needs to change now, before the window closes. Now let me give you a simple, practical way to take control for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Remove all refined seed oils from your kitchen. Cook only with olive oil, avocado oil, butter, or coconut oil. Eliminate fried foods and processed snacks made with vegetable oils. Add fatty fish to your diet twice per week. Eat more colorful vegetables and anti-inflammatory spices. Move gently every day, even if just for 10 minutes. And if you haven't had your vitamin D levels checked, ask your doctor for a test. Do not stop medications on your own, but be aware of their potential impact on nutrients. Observe what happens. Pay attention to your symptoms. Many seniors notice less morning stiffness, reduced swelling, and improved mobility. Even small improvements matter because they tell you the damage is not yet fixed in stone. Here's something I want to say very clearly. Anyone promising a miracle cure for arthritis is not being honest, but anyone telling you nothing can be done is also wrong. There is a wide space in between, and that's where real improvement lives. Arthritis is often the result of years of quiet inflammatory damage. It makes sense that recovery takes time, but stopping the poison is always the first step. Without that, nothing else you do will matter nearly as much. Your joints have carried you for decades. They deserve protection, not continued exposure to the very substances breaking them down. Make the change now. Remove the inflammatory oils. Add the protective nutrients. Move gently and consistently. And give your joints the chance they need to stabilize and function as well as they still can. You cannot rebuild destroyed cartilage with diet alone, but you can absolutely stop making it worse. And for many seniors, that difference is everything. The difference between walking independently and needing assistance. The difference between staying active and becoming sedentary. The difference between living fully and merely surviving. Your joints are not beyond help, but they need you to act now, while there's still cartilage left to protect. Don't wait until the pain becomes unbearable. Don't wait until mobility is lost. Start today. Remove the poison. Protect what remains. And give yourself the best chance at maintaining the independence you've worked your whole life to build.